Wake up in the morning.
3 FM sunrise.
But the body's weak, oh. Sometimes wake up in the morning. Your soul is willing. But the body's weak, oh. One time to the top, two time to the bottom. Drink time to the
3 FM sunrise.
money. I say money palava. Money palava. I say money.
Say money palava. Easy waiting. 6 minutes after 9 here on 3FM 92.7. Well, yesterday a report on the state of the media was released. It's generated a lot of conversation. We want to dovetail into that as well. Key among them, the findings: financial viability of media houses, ownership, capacity of ownership, working conditions of the press, safety of journalists. The report established that journalists and media owners had a positive disposition towards the constitutional provisions to support the promise of a media for development. It also established that the media were generally inclined to covering national development issues, but were constrained by financial challenges in the coverage of such issues. According to the report, although journalists had a clear understanding of their position in society and their roles as watchdogs, a disconnection between role conception and performance. Again, the study found out that media training institutions had accreditation from the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, but some of the authorizations had lapsed and needed renewals. Well, it's time to act. Cecil Sonkwa Mills is joining us. He is the boss at Giba. Good morning, sir, and thank you very much indeed for your time. How are you doing?
Good morning, Johnny. I'm good. Good
Great.
morning to you all.
Good to hear you. Yesterday, the report on the state of the media was released. I know that at the live event, you were charged. Giba and the other institutions were also charged to undertake some watching. But first, what do you make of the report as it was presented yesterday?
Johnny, I think it's been a very useful report, and it gives us a lot of insights that we have been talking about. But now this opportunity has come where it is actually documented in a specific report. There are some areas of the report which immediately we find very useful. One is the financial viability of the media. And what Giba is saying and our position and our mandate is we ensure that we know the private broadcasters make up most of the broadcasting, the media in this country. And a large number of them are on the membership of Giba. So what we are saying is that financial viability, we host most of the journalists in this country, and that is where the conversation starts with translating information to people. So we also need to make sure that these media platforms are viable. A lot of the things we've spoken about has been exposed also in this, and we find that very interesting. And we intend to use this to further push the cause of the industry towards improvement. I guess another area is the safety of journalists and also the area of regulation. So these are important parts that we'll be delving into.
Okay, let's get into the working conditions, because you need the journalists who work in these individual media houses to be in the right state of mind to be able to work. Number one, the report identified that the poor recruitment practices has become the order of the day. Some are hiring journalists who may not be properly qualified because they are not advertising for the right fully qualified people to be there. There are no proper remuneration. Also, they also brought up the conversation about a clear-cut promotion mechanisms. It's about who brought you in, who you know, and all of that. How does Giba take this portion of the report?
Really, we believe that there are two areas that we need to look at. In fact, if I should say three. One, again, I will talk about financial viability.
Right.
Because the media landscape is so starved of revenue, okay, it allows certain things to perpetuate. Even where in companies where you may have the policy, but then also because a journalist is looking for a job and needs to make ends meet. They would basically end up succumbing to certain conditions which may not be favorable and may be quiet about it because, well, they make some daily bread, which President says that. The other thing is we need to look at how we can have a general policy, but which can look at recruitment within the landscape. But this would mean that we must have a mandate with other partners that can make such a policy to run across. Of course, we have the labor laws that we can translate, but we must make it specific to take care of journalists. But if we look at the current state, especially of financial viability and furthermore after COVID, it's quite difficult. And Jenny, as we speak now, we are having another wave which is going to further put the media space under financial strain, which is of big worry to us. This is in the area of taxation. Okay, we've noticed that there is some taxation which is coming in, which we believe is legally not appropriate, but this is under discussion. But it's hitting some of the media houses. And then the other thing, especially for television, that is coming. We're seeing arbitrary rates, even though, especially for digital migration, we have not yet moved in terms of the policy requirements of this platform. But now we are seeing that they are asking for lots of dollars to enable people broadcast. You know, these are some worrying things. But this also delves into the regulatory structure and the ownership and the mandate given to people. So we're saying that it's a journey now. We have to keep pushing and looking at ways to resolve this through all means to ensure that the media landscape is able to deliver its mandate.
I see. Now, the question of remuneration. The report revealed that some journalists earn as low as 500 Ghana cedis. That should be worrying, especially in this economy where even national service personnel are giving an allowance of 559 Ghana cedis. Correct?
Yes, good. Yeah, that is actually awful. And we have known this that in some places. Well, some people are even earning 500 a month. There are some houses where people have not been paid for months. This is a mix of issues of ownership, ability to raise revenue. It's got a compound of issues. Okay, and it is something we're also looking at. We should also realize that the number of stations versus the revenue in the basket. For example, if you take one aspect such as advertising, but, now we have more stations chasing the same basket of advertising revenue in the last few years. We have over 500 radio stations and over 110 TV stations. We've got to find a way. We've grown much faster than the revenue has come through, not even talking about COVID. So people will employ people. You will get an appointment letter with that. But the ability to pay has become an issue. Now, this is also delving into the quality of journalism that we're having. So the revenue matter needs to be looked at. But we need to look at it holistically. Globally, in the media space, most countries deliberately make sure that media is financially subsidized. No, it's not a direct subsidy, but you put in frameworks that allow the media to sustain themselves. We are not seeing much of that in Ghana. We're not seeing much of that in Ghana. Okay. We actually rather see pushing more taxation. Okay, we're seeing being asked to pay on platforms, monies to recover. Nobody does full recovery of cost of platforms built. If we all agree that we're going to have one platform to distribute television, there are different ways of subsidizing. But no, we're not getting. Nobody's listening. We're talking. It's not happening. And therefore, a lot of stations will be a lot more. Will have a lot more financial difficulties, and this will run into the salaries of journalists. Or what is going to happen is journalists are going to find alternative ways of pushing out their news. Remember that with where we've reached in terms of online products, people will use other channels to get through with their message at no cost, at the lowest cost. And then we'll have an issue with regulation, with quality of information, fake news, etc. So we need to have a bigger conversation. And there should be an open and true conversation with government actors.
The question of guidance and counseling, psychosocial support was also mentioned in there, and that most media houses do not actually have. In fact, the reports said that, while just a handful of media organizations had a healthcare system for their workers, almost all of them had no counseling support mechanisms for their journalists who suffered trauma. And you know that in this job, you're either being beaten or you are being insulted on social media, or some political actors are not happy with you and they are threatening you, either your bosses, to have you, squeezed in a certain way or whatever. I mean, you go through a lot of things on this job. Is it time that it becomes a prerequisite for every media house to have at least a counseling unit?
Yesterday we had a quick little chat about this area, and we're thinking we should look at a more centralized place or location or institute or body that can support this functionality for media to start with. Because with the current situation where most media houses are, we wonder if they'll be able to independently afford when they can pay salaries. So if there's a central body in collaboration with the mental health authorities, etc., if we can get this kind of access and then look at what we do, if it's through some also support from some insurance angle. But it's one of the discussions that we'll be having today. There's another meeting which we're gathering today to discuss the report further, and then we'll also have meetings together with the GJ, the Prim Park, and a couple of other stakeholders, the Media Foundation. So we look at how we can set it, because it's not there, and it will require some resource to put this together, both financial and then human. So we look at what we have that can start by serving the broader body of media should such incidents occur, and then we slowly break it and decentralize it based on how it goes.
You would often also see, as is in the report, the onwards and upward journey of journalists in terms of a promotional structure that comes with a proper salary structure. That is also missing in the way we do our things as pressmen in this country. What do we do?
I think we looked at the looking at a model which we hope will be accepted by the whole private sector. But you see, for an association maybe like the Ghana Bar Association, they have certain tariffs they use. We said we'll look at and see what that happens, and then run that against the labor laws. Let's remember that some of these it will fall probably under journalism as a practice, because under the station, most journalists work with radio stations and TV stations, which are business entities, and they have their own salary structures. Okay, so it may be you may not have one structure in running for everybody. So we need to sit down to look at how that kind of framework can be done. But it is easier to achieve this also if we run it alongside financial sustainability. So when they know there's something, then we can structure. But at least this is one of the things that we said we need to look at. We have actually achieved that we need to work, a bit more closer as a media group on some of these issues. So we have an uphill task from this document. It identifies a number of things we want to focus on.
Press freedom and media ownership. Professor Gadipo yesterday mentioned that it was shrouded in some form of opacity. Political faces have found themselves in there for obvious reasons, so they could have their own stories told the way they want it, not the way it has to be told per journalistic principles. And these things go a long way to hurt press freedom and the independence of the journalists who are telling the story. How does Giba feel about this?
Well, this this actually is it's a challenge for us because the limitations there actually, I will not say limitations. The Constitution does not stop individuals from getting businesses in media. So we've seen that this freedom has found people with political affiliation also in media, which is actually common globally. I think here the problem we have is lack of some kind of regulation in terms of how the type of content that is delivered under such circumstances. Johnny, there's one thing that is also worrying that if you look at the landscape, basically after our 1992 constitution, which granted us a lot of freedom of expression, etc. We have a lot of other mundane related laws in the media space. We've got issues with the Electronic Communication Act. We even have TV licensing laws still on the books. We have not reviewed laws specific to media. There are a lot of them that are still sitting, and we are trying to run our media, which has transformed drastically in the last 15 years. We're trying to run it on the same vehicle and the laws. They may be working if you pick one from here and there, but it's way overdue for us to have refreshed a number of these laws and acts. And one of it is we've had this broadcasting bill. It's gone back and forth. We don't now we see a converged platform of both content and infrastructure. And we've still got NCA on one side and National Media Commission on one side. So in terms of regulation, we are actually all the way back. And it's one of the ways that we can tackle some of these issues about political affiliation probably within a reviewed regulation in terms of authorization or content delivery. But much as we'll keep pushing, but we need government actors to also support us to bring about such changes within the landscape. And then all parties from both sides will have a fair dispensation and then cut out the limitations. Look at our broadcasting bill. It's still hanging. We just haven't moved. And we keep talking about the issues, but there's no movement. There's no movement.
Is there political capture of the media?
I would say it is not. There's no visible political capture of the media.
Say again, please.
I would say visible because we know there are some stations that may have specific affiliation. Okay, which, well, I guess it is their right to choose what to show.
Right.
So you will not say there is, even though we know there will be some influence. But a larger part of the media is still very free and do what they have to do. And that is when you see people in media getting infractions with some politically affiliated people, then you know that there is still freedom. So we still are in a good place. We still can put up a good fight. So we do not have, I will not say we have political capture of the media as I speak.
So you disagree with that portion of the report?
Visibly.
Are media houses
there's still a large number of media that is not under political capture and do not and have neutral news delivery and information.
Are media houses now more interested in the business of profitability as opposed to the actual business of the press, which we all know?
Most media houses, not even profitability, if I should say, they are even trying to break even. So that is where most of the media houses they are struggling to break even. So we haven't even walked into the area of profitability, not yet.
Maybe I reframe the business of making money. Most media houses are interested in making money as opposed to sticking to the objects of the profession?
Oh, I think most of them are sticking to the profession. But remember that to sustain the profession, they need to make money. And that's what maybe I was saying. But most of them are sticking to the profession. That is the first and foremost thing that they do deliver. Be it entertainment or information or news, most of the stations are keeping to this. Most of the stations.
I thank you very much, Elite, for your time, sir. We're grateful.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
grateful. That's Mr. Cecil Sunkwa Mills. He is the president of GIBA. 26 minutes. Oh, zim indeed.
3FM Sunrise.
Hey, William.
Yeah.
You heard Mr. Sunkwa Mills.
Yeah, I mean,
Charlie. But he raises very critical points, huh?
see, a lot of the challenges have also been worsened by the introduction of the web, the internet, social media, and all that. People are now finding it difficult to even define who a journalist is, because when you shift the focus to the social media space, for somebody to be able to fit that professional bill, the person must be putting out content that, go along the tenets of the job of journalism, the ethics of the profession, accuracy, independence, and stuff like that.
Okay.
But now those that are doing the work of journalism in quotes on social media are heavily driven by commercial interests.
That's right.
Because,
Clickbaits.
yes. So at the end of the day, you see people doing the work of journalism, and then you look at them in terms of now we've even moved beyond the conventional media house. We have people we call bloggers.
Bloggers, yeah.
And event organizers these days even look at inviting bloggers
Because
more
they'll
than
give them
conventional.
numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the media has now spread so thin that the definition of a journalist has become very.
I interviewed Mr. George Sapon, NMC, secretary, and then I asked him if they have the capacity to monitor. Remember, monitor social media, or if you like, new media, as it were. And he says they don't have the capacity to fully monitor, traditional media. So as for new media, it's a different kettle of fish. But
so the new media has literally swallowed the commercial gains of conventional media, which is making it difficult for media houses to make money to pay.
And yesterday, Professor Amin Alassan of the GBC said, look, if you are a legacy media house now and you do not have a new media, thinking or wing, forget about it.
I was going to chip that in.
Forget about
you
it.
have to also get ahead of the curve. And quite often you'll find that some of these new media bloggers, as William has alluded to, they're not even as well resourced as some of these legacy media houses. They're only walking around with the phone and something. But big media houses have the capacity to really get ahead of the curve. So it's really time to if you can't beat them, join them. And if you join them the best way possible. I think that's the call that right now, Ajigong, so you have to get ahead of the curve.
I mean, this morning, for example, Johnny's Bite on TV3, New Day, 2.9K live views. On radio, 2.5K live views. So that's measurable right at that instance. As you go,
so anybody
engaging
would engage somebody who
say,
Charlie,
give me the numbers
feedback.
now. I mean, between 7 and 8, how many people can you get for me to be watching? Okay. So who do I pay to do what?
So the bottom line has always been the ability to pay your staff, because whatever we're doing, it is revenue against the professional direction.
Let's talk to Mr. Kofi Yeboah. He's the General Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association. Senior, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, boss. And I thank you for having me.
Great. I'm sure you have seen the report on the state of the media that was released yesterday. What does the GJA say about the report, first of all?
Okay. Thank you very much again. Yesterday I was at the event. So I know what's happened. At least the assets were given there. I've started reading it. But our initial thoughts are that this is a very good thing. It provides a plate full of food for thought and we all as an industry need to try and consume it and make the best out of it. We at the DJ have already started initial discussion. Yesterday I was there with the president of the DJ, so we had a few discussions about what strategy are we going to put forward to make the best out of this state of the media report.
I know that sometime last year or the year before, the GJ with the GIJ, now Unimac, if you like, the GIJ campus, and then the Ministry of Information started a process to say we want to train journalists, some refresher course of a sort, across the country. Well, I remember what we did in Accra. I don't know about the other regions yet. But the report also mentions training and the fact that even though some of the media institutions have been licensed, some of those licenses have long expired or elapsed and they need to be renewed. But because they are cash-strapped, they are unable to do that. That places a certain spin on the quality of training and who gets to call themselves as a journalist. How is the GJA interested in it, and where do we go from there?
I must say that training has always been on the front burner for us, because we believe through training we will be able to improve on our professional standards. And so for even practicing journalists, for those under training, and for those who come in through the informal door, I mean those who do not undergo any formal training at all, we always try to reach out to them to undertake training programs for them. And a lot of the time we have relied on sponsorship. The challenge we have is that sometimes the sponsor also has a certain interest. So you want to do training on, let's say, safety and security of journalists. The sponsor says, I have money for you to do something on a break. I'm not saying, though, that a break is not important, but that then leaves you at the mercy of the sponsor. But we are trying our best, so we also try to fashion out programs that we think are very necessary for us, and then we hopefully try to get sponsorship for them.
Mr. Eba, guide me, sorry. So how many of those regions were we able to cover in terms of trying to retrain journalists across the country? Because the base of that was that Mr. Nkrumah said there was a lot of misinformation around, journalists had to be properly trained and all of that. It's been 2 years. How many regions did we do?
Yeah, I think my information is that we did one in Kumasi for the initial launch of the program, and that was around the COVID time. Since then, we haven't been able to organize any yet. It will be good we go back to the drawing table to look at how best to kickstart that agenda. But as far as I know, apart from the Kumasi session, there hasn't been any other.
Democracy and the media go hand in glove, and the sustenance of the media will ensure that a democracy is also sustained. What would you say is the health status of our media in Ghana as we speak?
In my humble view, it is not anything pleasant to speak about, given the fact that salaries are generally low, given the kinds of attacks we've been receiving against press freedom and other things like media ownership, which is very opaque I wouldn't say the health of the media is anything to write home about. And these are the issues I think the report presents to us to have a conversation on. And many a time we try to just brush the issues on the surface and leave them there. But I think with a document like this, we should be able to dissect it well and try to have a firm handle on it, on the issues that have been raised to address them.
Mr. Yewa, when you say media ownership is opaque, the report says, as you have said it, Mr. Sunqua Mills has repeated saying, what exactly do you mean from what you said?
Yeah, what I mean is we don't know. I wanted to use the word we don't seem to know, but actually we don't know who owns what media. And we think this is something that should be out there for everybody to know. I remember 3 or so years ago when, Radio Gold and other radio stations were closed down by the NCA. We had issued a statement calling on the NCA to be transparent with the people who are behind radio and television stations. And I don't think there's anything secret about this. It shouldn't be at the request of anybody for NCA to provide. This is information that should be on the website of the NCA. And I like the way Professor Audrey Kajeku captured it yesterday, that we are talking media pluralism. And yes, we have a few people owning that space, the radio and television space. So how real is the pluralistic media we are talking about here? And why wouldn't we want to know who owns what? And I think it is something we need to begin to push. And when you go further into it, you will realize that a lot of the radio stations are owned by politicians. And that also presents its own issues. I remember Suleiman Abrahama sharing an experience after the Media Foundation for West Africa had undertaken exercise. You know, normally in election years, they do monitoring exercise. And as a follow-up of that exercise, they were engaging radio stations they thought were not doing the right thing. So they went to a radio station in Kumasi, and together with their professors and consultants, after discussing the issues with them, the station manager told them that, Master, all the things you are talking about, the ethics and everything, we know them, but we are doing the bidding of our owner. Our owner has an agenda, and that is exactly what we are doing. So when we talk ethics, no matter how loud we shout, ownership can have a serious impact on that. Because if the owner has a certain agenda, to hell with ethics, all he cares about is that he's achieving that agenda. And I heard you earlier talk about how traffic has become important or influential to our practice or the fortunes of media houses.
That's right.
So
That's right.
we all care about who is following us, and we think the traffic will bring advertisements, and advertisements will also bring the cash. So media ownership is a worrying issue.
In terms of media ownership, so you find regulators, and there have been all those allegations that regulators, for example, policymakers, at the vetting table of Mr. Opon Nkrumah. We remember that the issue of MX24, ABC News, a newspaper, and many others came up as well. Do you think that regulators and policymakers and, if you like, political figures should not be giving the opportunity to also own media houses because they may be conflicted when it comes to taking certain decisions that will inure to the benefit of the totality of the media?
And in my view, yes, because if the ball will come to your court at the end of the day, okay, why do you want to enter the field and be a player yourself? So I think when that happens, we may have issues of conflict of interest. And so it is important we sit down to take a critical look at all of these things. For example, MPs, I understand some MPs are owners of radio stations and so on and so forth.
That's right.
And so they think that some provisions in the broadcasting bill, for example, may not be in their interest, for which reason they will do everything to block it. So it is clear they may be serving a personal interest and not a national interest at that moment. So it is important to make this part of the conversations we need to have, and maybe follow it up with advocacy and see what we can make of it.
Is it your view that the press is free? And I'm asking for your candid opinion per the rankings that we have enjoyed over the period, and also the actual happenings on the ground. Is the press really free?
No, it is a straightforward answer. From the things we have experienced over the past 3-4 years, I wouldn't say we are free. Sometimes I think some people misunderstand or misinterpret the whole issue. Some people may tell you, why is anybody preventing you from talking? But the question is, after talking, are you free? And if I'm not free after talking, I wouldn't consider that to be press freedom. And I have a personal example.
Right.
After the 2020 election, you may recall the Ablikuma constituency incident,
right.
whereby a young journalist was shot.
Yes.
So I was following up the case in court, and all I was doing is that after the proceedings in court, I would grant interviews to the media. The media were in court anyway, but sometimes TV, they want some bites and so on and so forth. And all I would do was to recount proceedings in court. One time I received a call from somebody I wouldn't mention that, Kofi, don't go to court again. And when
what kind of a person was this? A political person or a co-journalist or what?
A friend.
Okay.
A friend. A friend. But the message was so profound in my view. And for your safety, you would need to take certain steps. Okay, so sometimes it's not about the freedom to speak, but the freedom to live after speaking.
Freedom after the speech.
It's a critical thing. And until we begin to address those issues, you wouldn't say there's press. This afternoon, we are addressing a press conference, DJ Media Foundation for West Africa, Primpac, and JIBA, about the increasing use of the law to criminalize free speech. And we think it is becoming a disturbing issue, and it's about time we spoke against such happenings. So when all these things are happening, I wouldn't call that a free press environment.
Would you say that one of the claims of our president as we speak, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, when he was Attorney General under President Kufuor, was the repeal of the criminal libel law? Of course, it was a campaign issue in the 2000 and run up to the 2000 elections. In 2001, that was achieved. Would you say that between then and now, even when the president in his first year in 2017 said he would rather like a noisy media than people who have been cowered into silence. Would you say anything has changed? Would you say he's a different cause of a color in power than what he was back then in opposition and even as Attorney General?
Yeah, we give credit to the president for that role he played, and of course, putting it in proper context, the bigger credit goes to the former president, John Ajikun Kufuor. But for our president to be the one at the time, the Attorney General, to spearhead it, we will always give him credit for that. And we also acknowledge the positive intentions he has always had about the media. But we need to match intention against act, what is actually happening on the ground. And we have had cause for concern that sometimes certain things are happening and you would expect His Excellency the President to make comments, speak on the matter, to calm nerves or to give a signal to the public or whoever may be the cause that this is not something I condone or this is not something I support. But invariably, you hardly hear him make pronouncements on those things, and that has been a worry to us.
Okay.
But as a person, he's always been a media-friendly person. You recall last year when we organized the dinner night, he graced the occasion. And so he's been a friendly person.
Well, but Mr. Ebo, is one thing gracing the occasion. I remember one of the years while we were talking about press freedom and we were complaining about the decline in press freedom, and the president said it will be a thing of the past. People were being attacked up north and in other places in the country, journalists. So it's one thing to appear nice and cool and breezy and speak and give us all the flowery language. And it's a different thing on the ground as principal and then agents. When your agents are misbehaving and the principal is busy trying to keep up appearance and look good, the two doesn't gel, does it?
It doesn't. It is the point I made earlier, that we would want to match intention against the act. And so even as the expression of intention has been very warming, we have not experienced that warmth in terms of what is happening on the ground, and that is what we will want to see. Otherwise, it is a reason. Conclusively, I say, for me, we cannot talk about any press freedom when we are having all these experiences.
Mr. Kofi, thank you very much for your time. Grateful.
I'm grateful too.
Thank you. And that's the General Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association, Mr. Kofi Eboa, sharing some thoughts. He says action must match intention. Actus and mensrea. Macedo and Sixtus and his people will tell you. Belated birthday to Francis Xavier Sosu Esquire. He is the MP for Medina constituency. This is from Mama V and the entire Veroni Ventures team. Also a belated one to Loretta Esinam Gidi, Cash Oil Company Limited, Tema, best wishes from Edinams, and Dr. Samson Obed Atta Apia, very popular man. 62 sent this to me, because she sent this to me. Roland sent it to me. Big man. Happy birthday, Department of Sociology, University of Ghana, and Miss Mavis Elisi Atawa Apia, Head of Social Studies Department, Alavanyo Senior High School, Senior High Technical School. Today is your birthday. Happy birthday. You're celebrating with your twin sisters. Okay, big man. Enjoy. If it's your birthday today as well, happy birthday to you. Let's pick a few calls. 0592928795 and 0208227290. 0592928795 and 0208227290. What do you make of the report, the state of the media? Is the press free? Yes, we know we are not paid well. And that's why some people think that they should be able to talk down at every pressman. Some of us, we do side business. You cannot cross my line. If you have not worked more than me, you can't talk down at me. Yeah. I always say that for some people, if their political parties had never come to power, they would never have had any work experience. Private sector, they didn't find you worthy to employ you. You want to come and talk to me who has gone through interviews, written aptitude tests, part my exam. Who born you? I'll go sack you right now. 0592928795 and 0208227290. I have showed my scorecard. Yeah. Ipsos Jopo. We have gone through it for more than 15 years. I won't allow you. 0592928795 and 0208227290. William, while we wait for the call, Mr. Kofi Yeboah was very, he was very straight with his answers.
Ambidextrous. That's ambidextrous.
Okay.
That's his nickname.
That's what you used to call him.
Yeah, I was
with
him, my graphic, straightforward guy. I mean, he even resigned from the job because of. That's how he is.
Because he can do the job.
Yeah.
So if you allow him, he will leave the job
he
for
has
you.
experience at GBC, graphic now DJ. So but a lot of the things he said are quite clear and obvious. The Nado's government, let me put it that way, and the way they've treated journalists in this country, sometimes it's not the best because of the position of Nanado in the media when he was in opposition, especially what he did for the repeal of the criminal libel law and so on and so forth, where you be speaking and you have national security agents, BNI people hovering around your media house. At the end of the day, where would we situate the freedom of the press?
It's matter you have said. Gabriel Bosumpe mentioned that they went for a meeting at Bemakam during the revolution days, and he was a pressman. Then after the press briefing, one soldier came in and he says, if you any questions, then he says before that, if you ask a good question, we will answer it together. But if you ask a bad question,
you answer it.
How am I supposed to even ask a question when I've been put in this situation?
Yeah, so I think the government needs to do more. Our brother Opon Nkrumah, I'm excited he's in that position. I'm proud to say that when he came to the media, I was one of the few gentlemen who dealt with him on a lot of levels. And he's a young man. And some of the things that happen, he should insist that they don't happen. Somebody shouldn't be picked up by BNI. If anybody whose name was mentioned in a certain submission statement by a journalist feels aggrieved,
he should go to court. You're talking about the matter of the First Lady. The First Lady, yes. That was a civil matter. So go to court. It's not a criminal matter.
And this law about, I think it's Section 208 or thereabout of the Criminal and Other Offences Act, where they try to criminalize and say if you make a statement and so on and so forth. For that law, for me, that's a bogus law.
Okay, let's pick a call. Good morning.
Yeah, Johnny. Yes,
Precious, talk to me, yes, sir.
Yeah, Johnny, you see how they talk. Generally, people have to have powerful upon all the securities. You understand? But I don't know why you did the security have to be guarding you people, because that you broadcast cases, you people not have secret. But nowadays, people not do your work self like that. That's why they not give people power to do that, the work how you have to do it. Police myself get power past people because of the get gone. So the you people have power past all the securities. You see, broadcasting, especially broadcasting like this, people get power. So people think about how corrupt. You see, corrupt system we are in now. The party that is in power get to do everything, but that is not the way. The laws. You see, the laws you have to obey, not be say power to take gun and do kill your neighbor. To kill your neighbor is what you know that. Hey. So people take power on them hand, they behave. You see, being make journalists make like which every day that you have.
Okay, thank you, Precious. David from Peacetown. Good morning.
Good morning.
David, you need to reduce the volume on your radio set. Great.
Is it better now?
It's better. Talk to me.
They are talking about media being controlled by politicians. They say some of the media. But the thing is, even our biggest media, if you are active on our biggest media, some of them, the political party, every media project. So as for the politicization, is on any media, even their own party members. They have their radio stations at
Right.
and they are operating and saying things. So as for that one, it's normal.
Okay.
But for them to be attacking media now, you go to a time when any government comes, opposition parties, radio station and TV station must go off. That thing that
is not
they
good.
want to bring, it's not better.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you very much indeed for your point. Kosami, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Talk to me.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I think it's very unfortunate the report we are receiving because this is the president, as William said. I mean, it's very hard. I mean, to support the media to be free, but after coming to power, then it turned upside down. Johnny, as you have given the opportunity, making us citizens are not spectators. Go to BBC. They have denied us from contributing on that station. National radio. You cannot call to contribute. The money you haven't taken off. You see, this the president who said he need equal coverage for every party when he was in position. Went to court and he succeeded. Then he came to power and then it's different thing altogether. I mean, the attack on media too are becoming so much to the extent that, I mean, in the beginning the law was, we were talking about community radio stations.
Right.
Based on which we set up radio universe. I think every community should have its own radio station so that it should not be belong to politicians so that we can, have a blessed morning.
Thank you very much. And just to say, there are public service broadcasters, that's GBC, and then there's also commercial and then community radio. It's important that we get the distinction right, but we have to go at this point. Here's President Akufo-Addo. Listen to him.
I will say again that I must prefer the noisy, boisterous, sometimes scurrilous media of today to the monotonous, praise-singing, sycophantic one of yesteryear. The Ghanaian media has, in fact, enriched the nation's governance by its curiosity, investigative skills, and persistence. Today, the Ghanaian citizen is able to give boldly and freely his or her feedback on policies and programs of government. Civil society groups are able to interrogate fearlessly government actions and positions, compare them to global best practices, and offer views and critiques aimed at complementing the efforts of government. And the political opposition is able to raise dissent openly, canvass for alternative viewpoints, and by so doing, offer our citizens alternatives to consider on all key issues of our national discourse.
We'll see you tomorrow at Jamestown. We'll be there from 6 a.m. all the way till 10. That's sunrise in your community, Jamestown. There'll be free health screening, and you do know that you have to be there at the Tourist Information Center at Jamestown. Yeah. And we will talk to you about that tomorrow. Komla Dome is up next with the news. Stay with us. We'll be on tomorrow.
Bola, Taco, rubber sack.
Sunrise on 3FM brings you a special edition of the morning show dubbed Sunrise in Your Community. Be our guest this Friday, 21st April 2023, as we host the Jamestown community in a town hall engagement. Together, let's make Jamestown great again. Sunrise on 3FM, pushing the development